Wonderful. Thank you all of you out there for joining us on this morning webinar. Well, at least in Copenhagen, it's morning. I can see we're from all over the world almost, at least east of Copenhagen and South Africa, I can see. Wonderful. Good to see you guys. So welcome to this very first webinar on Instructor Moments. We have 25 minutes. We will try to keep a fairly high pace through it. It is the first one we have practiced, but you know, when it comes into reality, it can always get interesting. We'll do our best to make it work. So I'll just, yeah, you can see my presentation. Can you see it, Thomas?
Yeah, we've got you there.
Perfect. So just to introduce the team, we have in the background Virginia, who's our GWO event manager. You may have heard about the GWO Safety and Training Award shows. That is part of what Virginia is doing. She's also arranging all our webinars, and she'll sort of be the technical host for these Instructor Moments webinars. And thank you for that, Virginia. We also have Thomas, but I don't know if anyone can see us. Maybe I should unshare so we can just. Are we unshared now? No, maybe not. Anyway, Thomas and I, we will be hosting today, and yeah, we are learning specialists from the GWO training project team. We're also training project managers, and we would like to start with a poll just to ask you guys, why are you here? Not because why are you here, but no more to sort of get an idea. What are your interests, and what are your motivations for joining this webinar series? So please, Virginia, could you share the poll? While you're polling, I can also say that anytime if you have questions or wonderings, please activate your microphone and your camera and post the questions. But we will, after each presentation, do a sort of a catch up with the question and answers. But it's nice to see who's speaking. So if you have something on your mind, please just make your voice hearable. Okay, this is I see the result of the vote. Paul, do you also see, Thomas?
Yes, we have lots of interest in digital learning tools.
Yeah. So no pressure on you, but that is your baby. I'll get back to my screen. Here we go. Short introduction to the concept of Instructor Moments. What is and why are we doing this? We're doing this because we're trying to reach out to instructors all over the world, not only in Copenhagen area, but actually to get to know more of you guys. We want to share some stuff. We are working with learning. We are working on developing training standards. We are working on the taxonomy. We're trying to find new learning, teaching ways. And we like to share that with you guys. When we travel or visit training providers and meet instructors, we sometimes get this idea that you don't really know what we are doing, and maybe it could be interesting if we shared what we are doing, you are doing, and what we are doing. And then the last point on my slide is to sort of support or create a network, global network of GWO instructors where we can share knowledge and share experiences. I'll get back to that in a moment. The concept of the webinars, so welcome. And then I'll introduce a 4-minute presentation from one of you guys. Not today, because that's really been prepared, but hopefully for the next webinars, that if some of you should have something fantastic on your minds, some amazing expectations experiences from teaching, good ideas, share it, and we'll spend 4 minutes on a hardcore 4 minutes presentation from your side. And then we'll use 10 or 12 minutes on the concept of the day, and that will be more or less the 25 minutes of a webinar. And now I will give you, Thomas, the screen. I put a lot of different digital words on this, but I know you have the right concept or the right definition, so I'll just stop sharing and screen is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. So let me share as well. So I was glad to see lots of interest in digital tools for enhancing training. That's the topic of the discussion today. And so I was going to start off with a little temperature check. So we're going to do a poll, and I want to see where people are on the digital evolution. So we've got a vote from digital dinosaurs, which are the skeptics who are not so sure about this whole world of digital training, all the way up to our digital advocates or enthusiastic eagles who are fully on board, live in a virtual world, maybe spend their time online when they're socializing and working. And then we've got everybody else sort of in between. And I think we probably have based on the votes from the first question, I can expect we might have some digital natives and some digital advocates. We probably have some digital immigrants as well, people transitioning over, maybe a few mechanical steam engine types. I don't know if Thomas, you fall into that category or not, or if you're up here in the eagle end.
No comments from my side.
Well, okay, so we've got lots of digital immigrants, adaptable owls, and then we've a bit of a spread. We've some skeptics, we have some advocates. So this is what we call a normal distribution. So we have a real mix, and I think most people like myself are somewhere in the middle. They've started off years ago with overhead projectors and acetates and things like that, and nowadays it's video conferencing and online. So to set a little bit of the scene, we have been running a digital project over the last number of months in the GWO, and that's involved going out to speak to our network and our community to find out about their appetite and their capability with digital training. And we've been trying to understand what people are doing and hopefully learn some things that might inspire others in the network. And we know that some amazing things are happening. So part of the work that we did was a survey. So we did a big online survey with our GWO training community, and you can see who participated there in my graph. So we had a lot of training providers, we had a lot of certification bodies, and some of our members involved. And as part of that as well, myself and some of the other team members went out to visit and speak to certain providers and members within our network to who we know are doing things in the digital world. And so I wanted to share a little inspiration with everybody that's here today. So as I say, we did a survey, and what we learned from the survey is lots of things, but one of the topics was virtual reality and augmented reality, use of that kind of technology within GWO training. And this was the sentiment. And you can see here, thankfully, the green category of very negative was totally absent. So there was a lot of enthusiasm and positivity around the potential for use of this kind of technology in training. You can see it's mostly positive or very positive, that people feel that there's some opportunities with this type of technology. But at the same time, there's a lot of questions. So you can see here that in the vast majority of cases, training providers, and this was the response from our training provider respondents, they were not using this kind of technology yet in training. Some, as you can see, are. Maybe 1/4 of the respondents are using VR and augmented reality in some areas of GWO training. And this was responding from certification bodies, and you can see even less, let's say, experience and capability among our certification bodies for how to approve and audit this type of technology effectively, to make sure that we're doing good quality training aligned with the training standards, and also giving training providers an opportunity to do things in a new way. And so that seems like it's a bit of a challenge. And so what we learned is that we need to find good examples and share with our community ways of doing things differently. And here you can see, again, among the respondents from training providers, where virtual reality or digital simulations, not always virtual reality, but digital simulations are being used, which GWO training. Again, you can see at the top of the chart in green, we do not use digital simulations in training, was the main response. But you do see it starting to be used in a few particular modules. You can see within first aid, within fire awareness, a little bit within manual handling, work at height, so a little bit of the basic safety training. You can see a little bit within the basic technical training. And what we saw there is some use of virtual reality for some of the technical programs. And one particular module stands out, which is lift user. We see a lot of examples of lift user being delivered with support of virtual reality technology. And so that stands out as an example. And of course, it depends on the type of training that we're doing, what's kind of an appropriate way of delivering it. And so we went out to visit some of our network to learn more. And here you can see some of the members who are also training providers, and some of the training providers that I went out to see. And so I was traveling around Denmark. I was in different countries, speaking to some of our providers that are using digital technology things and technology that's in use. So this was at Maersk in Svendborg. Now this is one of their vast number of training simulators that they use for operator training. This one is for training actually workers on board of jack-up vessels that are involved in construction, drilling and piling and these different types of activities. Now I have a load of videos here, but I don't unfortunately have time to play all of my videos today. But what I have is a link to all of the videos, which I'm going to share with our participants. So what you can do is you can follow up. All of these videos are online. So I've used YouTube videos or anything public resources, so you can find your own reference and enjoy these in your own time. This is one small example. I'm going to mute my video. This is from Vestas, one of our leading members. And what they're doing with their basic safety training is they've introduced this idea of gamification. And so this is where you take some learning and you turn it into an interactive digital gaming experience. So what does that do? It introduces a motivation, it kind of introduces a bit of fun and a bit of social learning. So you're working with others, you're gaining points, you're gaining a score and badges. And at the same time, you're of course gaining your basic knowledge. You're starting to, especially where they use it, is refreshing your knowledge. And so they've built a whole infrastructure within some kind of apps that they developed. And so their technicians can partially sort of refresh and maintain their familiarity with different equipment and different tools using this type of technology. And this is an example of gamification. And this is something that we're seeing more and more of. And of course, this usually means finding a digital partner who can help support building these kinds of technologies. And so you can see here, they can track from the company side, as the training provider, you can track what your learners are doing and you can see their progress. When they do come in for their training, you have all of this information about where they have existing knowledge or where they have gaps in their knowledge. And so you can focus on the most important areas for their learning. And so really exciting and interesting stuff. And of course, they have some nice infrastructure as well. So Thomas and I visited their facilities where they have a full offshore nacelle. And of course, it's easier to have that if you're one of the developers or OEMs than it is if you're a training provider. So we don't expect that at every center, but if you have it, it's fantastic. Let me jump on to my next example. Maersk. We visited Maersk training in Svendborg. The Mosaic Training Center. Now, they have a vast array of simulators of all shapes and sizes, and I'm going to leave the links here, and I would encourage you to go in and have a look. There's some nice inspiration there fully immersive simulated environments for operators of, let's say, crane training, Slinger signaler. There's all kinds of interesting things that they're using simulations for. This is something that we saw in lots of training centers, and this is one example of use of virtual reality for fire awareness training. And this is a FLAIM system, okay? And what this looks like is a virtual reality headset where the learners are put into a simulated working environment inside the nacelle. And in this case, they're tackling an electrical fire. And this simulates the sights and sounds of being in an environment with a fire present, with smoke in the environment. And as well as the virtual, you've got the physical. So the virtual experience that you can see on the screen on the right, in the real world, the learner is using a real fire extinguisher with these virtual accessories. So you're getting a mixture of the physical and a mixture of the digital blended together. And so they're tracking the movement and interacting that way. And this is something that we found very common in the US, where there was very difficult environmental legislation, making it impossible to light certain types of fire and use certain types of extinguishers in certain areas. And so this was a solution that was introduced and audited and approved across a number of centers as a kind of a substitution for the traditional way of doing things. Here we can see an example of a fully virtual world. So this is VR Vision, a very prominent digital technology learning supplier in the US. And what they're doing is supplying technical training within the nacelle. You can see here, sorry, my screen is getting notifications. You can see here interactions where the students are working inside the nacelle in a virtual environment. And so in this case, the instructor could be in one location in the world, joining the training session remotely inside the training experience with the learners. And alongside that, the learners are joining remotely from whatever location that they're based in. And this is something that we're seeing more and more of. There's another example from Lift User, a similar sort of idea with an instructor and learners together in a virtual environment, interacting with each other, training, learning, being assessed with a virtual simulation. In this case, the virtual simulation is of the lift and the components of the lift. And again, this is something that we've seen more and more often in different training centers. Another example, Vinci VR, again, you can see the kind of virtual world that we're talking about. And in this case, being used for basic technical training. Another example here was use in Slinger signaler. And again, as I say, these will be linked. And my final example, which is something a little bit different and probably a bit more advanced than the other examples. This is an example with Reval training in Estonia, one of our GWO providers, delivering elements of the basic safety training, sea survival, boat transfer in a fully virtual augmented reality world. So the learners are in a green screen environment like you would see on the film set of a Marvel studio. And there are physical props like the ladder, the PPE, the fall arrest system. And the learners are in this virtual world. So when they look around, and I experienced this myself, it's quite uncanny. You're experiencing this virtual environment around you as you learn. You're able to interact in the physical world with your equipment and your other students. Or CTV operator is at the helm, controlling the craft. And so just something very different. And so this is what they're using alongside their traditional way of delivering with a pool and a boat and everything else. And this is giving the students a really different experience in a very immersive environment. And the challenge here, of course, was for them to develop this with they used a game developer company, and they worked with their certification body closely to get this up to the level where it was acceptable to be used as an element, an enhancing element of the GWO basic safety training. So as I said, I wanted to share all of the links. So I've used all of public links. So what you can do is go in and have a look and find some inspiration, something a bit different that you won't have seen before, and it might trigger some ideas in your own training center.
Thank you,
That's it for
Thomas.
me.
Thank you. So we have 4.5 minutes. If you have any questions or wonderings, let's hear them. I know we often have this discussion, as Thomas, you also remember or know, that how far can we go on the taxonomy scale using digital tools, and how much can you do when you use virtual reality, for example. That's a very long discussion, and we're always ready to take it because it is interesting, and we can only get wiser all the time. A quick answer from my side would be, it depends on how detailed or how you design your virtual reality or your augmented reality training. So yeah,
I would agree.
Sorry?
I would agree with that, Thomas. I think there's two sides of there's two words which we use. Sometimes we use this word of fidelity. So how realistic are we able to make things? And another key thing I think is how interactive can it be? What we don't want is people sitting behind a computer, not feeling that they're interacting with something real. And one of the ways of doing that is having other people there.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I think a question often heard is it possible to make some reach ability learning objectives by virtual reality, for example? And I don't know if you have a quick answer on that, but I have a suggestion.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Okay, so because if you should take responsibility for doing the right thing when you're doing transfer, for example, hooking on, following the procedure and stuff, then you can practice that on virtual reality. And if you want to find out if people actually take responsibility for doing it the right way, you can talk to them. How do you feel we'll do this tomorrow when you go to work? It doesn't have to be only practicing. It can only be a dialogue. It can also be a dialogue where we actually find out what's going on inside the participant. But as I said, it's a beautiful discussion to have, and we'll always be ready to do it. I'll just share my screen to finish up for now. The future. We have planned webinars every last Monday in the month for the rest of the year. And we have chosen topics. If you have ideas for other topics you would be interested in working on or discussing, then please share them. But these are sort of the topics that we have decided for or are planning on presenting for the next 6 months. Student involving learning activities, we see that as a challenge, especially on the theory parts of the lessons. So we would like to work with that. And motivation, the taxonomy, fidelity in learning transfer, learning activities in total or in general. How do we make participants' discussions in the classroom and stuff like that? So this is sort of the program for the next 6 months. If you have good experience, share it with us. Virginia has made a submission link. You can find it in the chat. Click the chat and send in your idea, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. It would be nice to hear what you have on your minds out there. The setup is a 4-minute presentation. Please use visuals so that we engage everybody on the webinar. It would be amazing to try this. And then sort of a feedback for a short feedback for this webinar. Will we see you again? Please, if Virginia will share the poll, then just give it a shot.
And we have, I think, one question popped up, which is just asking to share the links. So I think the easiest way to do that will be a follow-up email to all of our participants today, just to say thank you for joining, and we can send a link to all of those elements that we were looking at.
Virginia, do we have emails for everybody? I know she's listening.
We do, yeah.
Yeah,
Can
perfect.
see.
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay. I don't see any results on the poll. Of course, thank you. That's wonderful. It's time. Thank you very much for attending. I hope it was worth it. We'll get better and better, and I look forward to the next time. So thank you. Have a great week, and have a good life. Ciao.
Thanks, folks.